I am honored to introduce you to my friend Cameisha Brewer Dickerson today. As a therapist, thought life coach, speaker, and author, Cameisha is passionate. And when I say passionate, I mean it. It's in her blood to help people prioritize their mental health. Whether you've heard her speak at an event, talked with her in an actual counseling session, or any conversation that you have with Cameisha, it is intriguing and so thought provoking. I absolutely love just chatting with her. It's always fun, and it's always very deep. Cameisha's extraordinary story of transforming her own life from being an orphan teen living on public assistance to becoming a successful entrepreneur with a thriving business is the inspiration behind her bold mission to teach others that with God, all things are possible. Today, fans across the country admire her mission of teaching people how to build a life they love by shifting their thoughts into alignment with their goals. And you can really find out a lot about Cameisha on her Instagram. She is fun to follow. So go ahead. You want to check that out and follow her. Cameisha, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about our chat today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
So I want to start just by delving into a little bit of your past, a little bit about how you started in entrepreneurship. So tell me about the first business you started. Where did you begin as an entrepreneur?
Way back in the day. The first business that I started was a personal consulting business, but I didn't quite know like what that would look like for me. So I tried everything. So I was doing branding, consulting, and marketing. I was styling people for photo shoots. I was doing personal makeovers. I was helping people, manage their time. I was like a personal assistant, basically, in a lot of different capacities. And it just wasn't for me. I started it and I was making a little money, but I didn't feel aligned in what I was doing. But that was my very first business, was the personal consulting with all the things.
And so when you realized that wasn't working, tell us about the journey from that to what you're doing today.
Sure. So it was kind of a fear-based decision with that first business because I had already finished grad school and was clinically trained as a psychotherapist, and I was afraid to take my boards. And so with all the styling and the personal consulting and the branding and marketing I was doing for other clients, just freelancing, those closet makeovers became more and more intense, and they turned into therapy sessions, which is how I knew that I just needed to face my fear and go take the boards so that I could practice as a licensed therapist. So it really did lead me back to my true purpose, but that was kind of the way I just found my path, was literally in closets with clients with lots of tears, hearing the stories behind their clothes.
I think that's fascinating because it's interesting. It is because you think about like closet makeover, we're just going to pick some cool outfits, but the emotion that comes through in that moment of why I don't want to let go of this one, or why I don't feel good in this one, even though you say I look great, like
Yes,
I didn't feel good. I think that's so incredible how it really did like just hone in and say, this is great, but this isn't really what you were born to do. You were
yes,
born to do the thing that happened as a result, right?
absolutely.
That breakdown that happened.
Yes,
That's where you were born to step in, right?
yes, absolutely.
Well, we're focusing this show on multiple streams of income. And I know you recently, over this last year, have added some things in. So can you give us just a rundown of all of the different income streams that you have in your life?
Yeah. And the way I conceptualize is like they're different streams, but they all flow from the same river. And that's how I make sure that I'm still aligned in what I'm doing. So I have one-on-one therapy for Arkansas residents only. I can't do therapy for people that are that are not in my state because I'm not licensed in other states. So one-on-one therapy, group coaching through the form of a membership program, the Thought Life membership program. I do private one-on-one coaching for some of my higher level clients. I wrote a book this year and launched that, self-published my first book. I do offer some courses and trainings and master classes and workshops, that sort of thing. I offer speaking engagements, all still like mental health related streams, but I think that's all of them. Yeah, those are the ones I added this year.
So when did you make that decision that you wanted to add those other income streams on top of your standard therapy that you were doing, your clinical therapy you were doing?
Yeah, so a lot of it came about with COVID and a lot of changes with insurance companies and reimbursement. Because I've been working from home, there were a lot of just up and down, back and forth conversations with the insurance companies about, okay, are we going to continue to pay for telehealth, for mental health outpatient psychotherapy services? There were rumors, and we would get emails every couple of months saying that, hey, your telehealth coverage is going to stop on this date, so you guys need to go back in the office. And so I didn't want to disrupt my income flow because of where I saw clients. The treatment was the same, and we still continue to do telehealth now, thank God. But just constantly getting those emails, it was like a threat to, the flow of that stream of income, because some of my clients, they don't even live in the same city as me. Some of them, they live in Arkansas, but they're like 3 hours away. So no, they're not coming to my city on a Tuesday afternoon for a 45-minute therapy session. Like, it's just not possible. So I knew that I needed to add additional streams just to kind of offset any possible disruption with those insurance companies. And I think it's always great to have a backup plan just in case things happen, because I don't like being limited to just one stream, which is why I left corporate.
Right. Right. And I love that you still have your Arkansas-based clients through that you're able to do therapy with, but you've been able to also offer coaching. And not to get into too many semantics there, but
Sure.
there's a difference in how you have to interact with those clients, right? So
Yes.
there's some boundaries then in coaching that you can't cross because that goes into therapy, and then you get like things like that, right? So
Yes.
so
Yes.
how do you distinguish which client needs therapy versus just which would be better in your membership and doing your group coaching?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what their presenting problems are. My group coaching programs and membership are for beginning entrepreneurs. So I'm not even I'm touching mindset issues, but I'm not touching the root issues of those mindset blocks. So if it's a root issue where you're having a hard time starting your business because of past trauma, then the past trauma is a bigger issue that needs more attention than you starting a business. Like, we need to get you the mental health treatment that you need to deal with the trauma. And once you've done that, then yeah, we can talk about a business. But I just definitely think that, the traumatic issues or grief or pain, loss, depression, anxiety, those things need to be addressed by a mental health professional. And it's not me in that container, because it's for membership. And we're talking about your mindset blocks, your ideal client, figuring out your why, what your vision is. And that has nothing to do with your trauma story at all. So I've been in the game for about 10 plus ish years. So I'm able to kind of screen out, like, whenever we do those initial consultation calls, to kind of figure, okay, what is it that you need? What are you trying to accomplish? What's in your way? And where do we need to start you working at? So some of my clients that are in my coaching programs actually have a therapist, which is great, because that means they're still getting the help that they need. I can't, stop them from getting that. I highly encourage them to get that, because it will free them up to be able to pursue their entrepreneurship goals as well.
I like that distinction. I think it's really important. And I know because I know that there are a lot of therapists that are in that same position that you have been in, and they're trying to figure out, how do I diversify a bit so I'm not so dependent on insurance and things like that for clients to even find me or get to me or want to seek their mental health
Yes.
because it's covered by insurance, but also being able to expand into other taking have and years of experience that you have working with others and being able to put together some programs that are not, that are maybe self-paced and things like that, where they can go through working on those mindset issues and setbacks, because we all have them.
Yes.
And I haven't met an entrepreneur yet that doesn't. It doesn't have something that we face every day, that we've got to have a little bit of a mantra, an affirmation, or something.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to get through today.
Yes.
Well, with these different streams of income that you have, these different areas that you have to focus in, what does a typical day look like for you, or a typical week?
Typical day kind of depends on what's the goal for the week. So some weeks I have way more referrals for therapy clients, like the weeks leading up to holidays. I get a lot of referrals for therapy clients. So those weeks I'm more focused on being present. So a lot of my coaching happens on the weekends. There's no way for me to coach during the week because I have therapy clients. And I know we're going to get to boundaries, but like I don't work Friday. So I know that within 4 days, everything that has to be done for my therapy practice has to be done. Everything that has to be done for my coaching practice in terms of just admin stuff needs to be done in 4 days. So I kind of structure my day like that. And I still get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every day. I don't shortchange myself on that at all because I know I need that or I can't show up well. So I still have my morning routine of getting up and prayer and meditation, reading scripture, worship music, breakfast, checking emails. I try to do consultation calls in my windows of when I see clients. I don't have just a set admin day. I know I don't start seeing clients until 9 o'clock. So before 9 o'clock, I can get as many consultation calls in as possible, but I let people schedule their own calls with me and they can just see, okay, Cameisha has an opening. I can get on a call with her this day without them having to email me and say, hey, what day do you have an opening for a consultation call? I'm like, I have no idea. Just look at the calendar and you let me know and I'll just see it. and I'll show up there. We got to have automations, but that's kind of how my day looks. I take 90 minutes for lunch. So if I have a call that runs over or I need to make a couple phone calls, I can do that, but I still have an hour to eat and to go talk to my husband or go outside and check the mail. Like I need that midday break. I see a few clients in the afternoons and that's it. And then I get to get on the couch and watch my TV shows and catch up on whatever else I missed for the day. And I try to be done definitely by 6 o'clock and I'm shutting it down completely. So that's kind of my day.
I love that you mentioned like Friday is an off day. That's your own mental health day, right? That is your day to just do whatever, clean, do it, just relax, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wanted to definitely touch on, you have some hard and fast boundaries within your life that makes these things possible. Because I know therapy, when you're going through that session after session, I'm sure at the end of the day, you're like, I'm tapped out. I'm like,
yes,
I don't have very much else to give. So
absolutely.
how do you structure that from, and you talked about it a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
how do you ensure that your energy is maintained throughout the day? And you talked about that with having that longer lunch, making sure you have those time frames that this is when therapy happens. This is when it doesn't, this is when other things happen. What are some other ways that you really set boundaries around your time, even across the year? Not just necessarily within a week.
Yeah, so I plan out my entire year as far as when I'm going to do launches. So the fourth quarter is not a launch quarter for me at all. I'm all in the first 3 quarters, but I love the holidays and I love being with my family. I love not being completely stressed out with launching and making sure, all my links are working in Kajabi. Like I don't want to think about those things in the fourth quarter because I want to be cooking and more present, but I also understand the influx of therapy clients that I'll get in the fall too. So I don't really have mental capacity to do both in the fourth quarter. So I structured the year in that way and it works for me, honestly. And I wish, and this is my first full year of entrepreneurship, but now that I know that this is the flow and this is what I want, I will continue to do that and to structure it that way because it makes sense. It feels good. My husband's not irritated at me because I'm stressed out and cranky with all the things that I put on my own schedule. I'm naturally ambitious, but some of the things don't have to be done. Another boundary is 8:30 p.m. I cannot be on my phone. I may sneak and send a couple of messages here and there to my coaches and like my support system. But my family knows like if they need me, they have to call my husband because my phone is like in a drawer tucked away somewhere, because I'll keep working, and I know me, I'll keep working, I'll check things, I'll look ahead, and I need to unplug. So having that hard boundary, I'm in the bed by 9:30, honestly, and I love it. But that's my flow. And my body knows what time it is. I don't have to look because I don't have my phone, and I take my watch off too. So I don't get notifications, but my body knows when it's 9 o'clock. And I just, walk my little stuff to bed because I know it's time for me to lay down. But having those boundaries, having a routine, having a flow has really like positioned me to be successful in my day to day.
I think it's a great transition to talk about what you really focus on, what you love to help others do, and that is expanding their mental capacity. I think what you describe in your day, how you structure your year, what allows you to do that. So tell us a little bit about what mental capacity is, and what does that mean, and why do we need to be concerned about our own mental capacity?
I got you. So mental capacity is just your own awareness of how much you can mentally handle. I'm a naturally ambitious person. I work with high achieving women who are also very ambitious. And sometimes, myself included, I've had to set hard boundaries, but sometimes we get too ambitious and we think that we can take on way more than what we can actually handle. So your mental capacity is just being able to evaluate what's going on in your life. What do you have on your plate? What are your current obligations? What are your current responsibilities? And is your life even conducive to take on anything else? Like, do you have room to fit these things in your schedule? Do you have room to join this coaching program? Do you have room to launch a coaching program? Do you have room to volunteer or, join a professional organization within your city or your community? Can you actually take that on? And some people think that because mentally they believe that they can, then they should. And that's not always the case, because your body will let you know when you're at capacity. You'll get stressed out and anxious and overwhelmed. Your mind will let you know when you're at capacity. So just trying to monitor that and evaluate it ahead of time as you're mapping out your goals and your vision, then that really sets you up to understand, like, yes, I'm at capacity, or no, I can take on a little more and still be okay.
So give us an example, maybe, somebody within your program that wanted to do more. Like, how do you walk them through that evaluation?
So the way I walk them through it is just by first having them sit down with themselves and think about the vision. Like, what's the big picture? What are we working toward? What are you trying to accomplish? Because a lot of people that come see me for coaching, these beginning entrepreneurs, they start in like the last steps, what I call the pretty steps. They want to do the website and the photo shoot and the branding and the marketing. I'm like, all that's cool, but who are we talking to? Like, we got to get back to the core of who you are as a person and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. Like, who are you trying to serve and what problem do you solve? Like, getting back to the essence of that, and then and I show them like a full timeline of a checklist of, hey, like, if you're trying to launch something, these are your standard things you need to be doing and when, and what's wrapped into this section or this phase of your launching process. And then when they lay eyes on, they're like, oh, well, I don't have time to do that because I've got this. My kids have soccer. We've got cheerleading practice. We've got dance. And I'm like, okay, so if you don't have time, let's reevaluate the goal and reevaluate the vision and set you up on a more realistic timeline. Because if you want to be successful, these are the things it's going to take. And not even just to get to the 6-figure business status, but before that, like getting to the point where you're making $1,000 consistently. Right. These are the things that need to be in place. And so if they look at those things and like, I don't have time for that, I'm like, okay, you don't have time for that. I can't make you have time for that. That's not what I'm here to do. This is for you to look at your own life and make decisions as the CEO of your life and your business of, yes, I can take this on. I'm ready to do this. And so for some of them, it is a really eye-opening experience because they literally thought the website would get them there. But I'm like, there's no audience, there's no following, there's no nurturing, there's no systems in place, there's no emails, there's none of that. The website alone won't get you there. Mm-hmm. And just having some of those hard conversations related to their mental capacity, it's really eye-opening. But that's kind of my process of walking them through it, is having them lay eyes on what they're trying to do, what they're trying to create, and just understanding the steps that need to be taken in order to get there.
And that's so important. And I know I've have the similar discussions with my clients, is especially when they have a full-time job, they're trying to do this on the side, but they want it done in 3 months. They want to be like, income producing in 3 months. And it's like, are you willing to give the 6 hours after you get home from work to make that happen and still get sleep? And like, sure, you can do that, but it's going to be like having two full-time jobs.
Yes.
And being able to really walk through that with them and have them see that, and I think giving them permission to have a slower pace as well is so eye-opening to them. Like,
yes,
I don't have to do it. Like it doesn't have to look like that. No, it doesn't have to look like that. We're not going to be this like overnight internet sensation, because
right.
it never happened overnight, even for those that you thought it did. Like, you didn't see all the stuff in the years leading into it.
Yeah.
And so giving them that picture of reality of really, what does it really take? And are they still willing to do it? Right? Are they still willing to go do it? Even if it takes them a year instead of 3 months, or 2 years instead of 3 months. And I think that's where it gets to that why are you doing it to begin with? Right? Are you doing it just for the money? Because the money is never the thing that's going to drive you and keep you going.
No.
Money is never the answer of why you're doing something.
Right.
Money is a fantastic benefit of doing that thing that you do, right?
Yes.
And yes, we want to try, we definitely want to make an income at what we're doing. That's not what I'm saying.
Right, absolutely.
But that can't be the driving force.
Yeah.
It can't be the driving force of what you're doing.
Yeah. And I experienced that, what my starting out, my whole, big goal was to hit that 6-figure mark. I was like, oh, I just got to get there. I'm so close. I know I can get there. And then when I crossed it, I was like, okay, like what do we do now? And like all the feels, like I felt accomplished, but it didn't like last for the next 3 months. Like, it's like, okay, I've done this. Thank God. I'm really excited about it. But what else do I want to do with my life now, aside from hitting the income goal? Like, how else do I want to live and walk in my purpose? Are there some other things I can do? Do I need to scale back? Or, like for me, it was reevaluating how I made it, like how I made that first 6 figures. And I'm like, I did it the hard way. So for my next 6 figures, like how can we restructure things? So you're right. The money itself, no, it's not like the sole reason why we do what we do. And I'm like, I can have more reach. I can have more impact. I just need to restructure some things so that I don't reach my mental capacity working harder than what I have to do to hit the next set of goals or whatever that is.
Yeah. And it's not that I'm against goals. We definitely have to have goals. And one of our mentors that we kind of share recently did a Facebook Live, Shanda Sumter, and she was talking about intention is more important than goals, because the intention will push you. So what's the intention? What is the drive behind it? That's going to really get you there. And that's going to be the thing that gets you up when you don't want to work that day, when you don't want to go do that thing, you don't want to go do the live, you don't want to go do the video, whatever it is, or write the blog post, or you hit the hard things, right? I can't figure out how to make this happen on my website. I want it to look like this. I can't figure it out. It's not doing what I want it to do. And, you just want to kind of throw your hands up and walk away. But when you can look at, wait, who's not going to hear my message if I can't figure this out? Is there another way? Does it have to look that way? Like, am I just being stubborn here? Right. Sure, it could look prettier, but if I'm doing it myself, it's got to be good enough, right? It does. Those are all those little mindset shifts that we get to make.
Yeah.
So you wrote a book this year in the midst of growing your membership and your coaching business and starting all of it. You did all of it at once. Let me just throw everything together at once, right? So tell us a little bit about the experience of writing the book and adding that as another income stream this year.
Yeah, the experience of writing a book, it was eye-opening for me. I've never considered myself to be a writer. My mother was an English teacher and she was very critical of my writing and my punctuation. And so it became overly stressful for me and I was just never good at it. I just wasn't. And I could excel and I understood the content, but writing the process of it, it just stressed me out. So what I did, I feel more confident in my speaking than my writing. People who've read my blogs and my emails, they think I'm a phenomenal writer, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for them. But what I did was I used the Otter app to transcribe, and I basically just like spoke a lot of my book. And sent it to the editors and the formatters. I had a writing coach, and she was phenomenal. And she was like, Cameisha, don't worry about it being perfect. Just talk and we'll handle it from there. And I was like, okay, if I can just talk this whole book out, then yeah, I can do this because I feel really confident doing that. So we wrote the book. It only took a couple of months. Got to work with the cover designer, and I made a decision to not put my face on the cover, which was strange for me because I always imagined my first book, like I know I got to have my face on it, but from a marketing standpoint, it just made sense to not have my face on the front cover. I'm on the back. But it was really cool, and it was a beautiful stream of revenue for me. And I think it's going to continue to grow just because with the clients that I see, these high achieving women, and it's a short read because I understand my ideal clients that are, similar to me, we don't have time to read a 300-400 page book. Like that's not how our life is right now. So the book is like, I want to say maybe like 115 pages. So it's a pretty short read, but still very content heavy in terms of like the application and the journal and the journal prompts that I included. So it was a great experience for me. I feel like I learned a lot. It stretched me. I had things I wanted done in a certain amount of time, but when you're working with a team, it doesn't quite work like that because they're human and they have lives too. And so it taught me patience and flexibility. And I wanted the book done in July. It wasn't done until September. And I was like, okay, September it is. But like the September timing was perfect because in the middle of it, me and my husband, we relocated to a new city. And so I'm launching programs and moving and packing and writing a book and just doing all the things because I understood that in the fourth quarter, I could not, continue to work at this pace. So I'm like, if we're packing it in now, then yeah, let's go for it. Right. So it worked out well. I learned how to set up a Shopify store and how to do some coding and integrate different systems for my business. So I feel like I learned a lot as an entrepreneur, but I think it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was amazing as your friend to walk through that with you and to watch you do it and just marvel at how much you were packing in, for sure.
Yes.
Well, what advice, just to close this out, what advice would you have for our audience who is looking at taking that thing that they're doing right now and expanding into something more? What advice would you give them?
My advice would be to whatever streams you're going to create it, make sure it all flows from your main river. So my main river is mental health. So I don't create things that don't have anything to do with mental health, even if it's mental health in ministry, mental health in business, mental health in entrepreneurship for beginnings. It's all from my same river. And doing that, it doesn't feel like work for me. It just feels like it's an extension of creativity to serve my audience, to serve my clients, to serve people who are new to me, to lead them in, to nurture them, and to give them tips and information and resources and high value content. But whatever it is, just take your time, create your streams from your same river, and be patient. The success will come, the money will come, all the beautiful things you had your eyes on when you first started, it will come. It may not look exactly the way you envisioned it in your mind day one, but you will definitely get there if you commit to the work and you definitely take advantage of coaching and mentorship for people that are a few steps ahead of you that can help you on your journey.
Beautiful. You have a free gift for our audience today called the Mental Capacity Guide. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in the guide, I'm literally walking you through all of these different steps for you to think about your vision and consider what your capacity is, what's on your plate, who do you need to delegate some things to, how can you simplify your life? Because whenever we simplify our lives, we can create margin, which increases our capacity to be creative and to work harder in our business and to get some things accomplished that we did think would take way longer than what we expected. But when you create capacity and margin, you can do those things in a shorter amount of time. Not that you're rushing, but if we can get things done quicker, then yeah, absolutely, let's get it done. But in this guide, it's tips and resources, checklists, journal prompts, like really intense, like self-reflection questions where you can really have a hard talk with yourself and say, okay, what can we handle? What do we need to do? And I'm walking you through the whole thing in this guide.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving that to our audience today. And thank you for watching this episode of the Freedom in Business Show. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.